everybody. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. You know, it's a daily thing now. You watch the president, the vice president, these various medical experts, titans of the private sector, others. They present to us what they're doing, what they know about the data, what they'd like us to do, how they think things are going to turn out going forward. They're asked, to have a crystal ball and predict, well, everybody who needs a ventilator, get a ventilator. Okay, I'm going to answer that question. No, they're not. Maybe the president has a different answer, but based on decisions that were made a long time ago by governors and by cities, everybody who needs a ventilator today is not going to get one today. And so what the president is trying to do, as well as GM and Ford and a number of their partners, is to build as many ventilators as fast as they can. They're very complex. There's different types of ventilators and so forth and so on, and fill the gap as fast as they can. But not everybody's going to get one in time, and you can look at the governors like Cuomo. Now, he deserves a little break because it's a pandemic. Nobody can really prepare for a pandemic, but you can prepare better. And so when he had a decision to make in 2015, solar power, that is solar panels or ventilators, he chose solar panels. Over $700 million for solar panels, and he didn't spend the $500 and some million on the ventilators. Same with the beds. You've had governors, Republican and Democrat in New York since 2000 to 2020. New York, you lost 20,000 hospital beds during that period of time because the governors decided not to fund them, including Cuomo. And so what the president's trying to do with the hospital ships and the Javits Center and these other efforts by the Army Corps of Engineers is now to fill the gap. And so now I watch these attacks on the president by one reporter after another, and I'm convinced that they talk to each other. I don't mean they have a huddle before the event. I mean they talk to each other, they share ideas, they share on how they're going to attack the president, try and get under his skin, try and yank his chain, try and quote him from March when he didn't think it would be as big a problem as it is today. The president is basing his opinions on what these experts are telling him. He's not making things up. Moreover, he's not trying to panic the nation. The media do that. I'm going to show you an example of how the president is relying on the advice he gets and giving his comments. And there's no reason to trash him for this. There's no reason to trash him in the least. I mean, honest to God, I don't have anybody who can do a better job than he's been doing. Anybody. So I'm looking here for Dr. Fauci. Now, Dr. Fauci, it's called Katz's Roundtable. He's the gentleman who owns WABC now. And he had Anthony Fauci on his program back on January 26th. And by the way, I'm not doing this to trash the doctor in the least. I'm doing this to show you how this works. When you have a virus that even the experts are utterly unfamiliar with, and they're trying to gather data, but they don't have a lot of it, particularly with China covering it up, destroying data and killing doctors. So John Castimittis has this program, and he was pressured enough to interview Dr. Fauci, Anthony Fauci, January 26th. By my calculation, that's 9 weeks ago, give or take. Just 9 weeks ago. Cut 12, go.
What can you tell the American people about what's going on? Should they be scared?
I don't think so. The American people should not be worried or frightened by this. It's a very, very low risk to the United States. It isn't something that the American public needs to worry about or be frightened about, because we have ways of preparing, of screening, of people coming in, and we have ways of responding, like we did with this one case in Seattle, Washington, who had traveled to China and brought back the infection.
Mm-hmm. So that's Dr. Fauci 9 weeks ago. Obviously, he was wrong. He's not wrong because he is partisan. He's not wrong because he wasn't looking at the data or the wrong models or anything. He had what he had, the information he had. And now, Dr. Fauci, yesterday, had this to say. Cut 13, go.
How many cases do you think the U.S. will reach? 1 million cases?
All right, first of all, Jake Tapper, that is such a stupid question. How many cases do you think we'll reach? I mean, what is the point of a question like that? So you can play gotcha 9 weeks from now? Go ahead anyway.
1 million cases, or do we not even have any idea?
You know, Jake, to be honest with you, we don't really have any firm idea. There are things called models. And when someone creates a model, they put in various assumptions. And the model is only as good and as accurate as your assumptions. And whenever the modelers come in, they give a worst case scenario and a best case scenario. Generally, the reality is somewhere in the middle. I've never seen a model of the diseases that I've dealt with which the worst case scenario actually came out. They always overshoot. So when you use numbers like 1 million, 1.5 million, 2 million, that almost certainly is off the chart. Now, it's not impossible, but very, very unlikely. So it's difficult to present. I mean, looking at what we're seeing now, you know, I would say between 100 and 200,000 cases, but I don't want to be held to that because it's deaths. I mean, we're going to have millions of cases, but I just don't think that we really need to make a projection when it's such a moving target that you can so easily be wrong and mislead people.
Okay. So here we have Jim Acosta, of course, CNN. He starts quoting the president. You said this on May such and so. You said this on May such and so. You said it wasn't as bad on May such and so. So what is the point of that questioning? What does he want the president to say? My experts were dead wrong. I'm lying to the American people, blah, blah, blah. It's just an amazing thing. The Russia hoax media that has been wrong for years, the Ukraine hoax media, this is why the people cannot stand these people, and I can't stand them either. Now we have from 538, former New York Times writer, and his staff. He set up this site. It's supposed to be based purely on statistics and making analyses from statistics. Says one of the most pernicious parts of the COVID-19 crisis is how uncertain everything is. Researchers and officials cite statistical models that estimate infection rates, death counts, and when things will go back to normal. But these estimates are changing rapidly. And as the forecasters bounce around, so do the rest of us living through the crisis. How can one feel settled when the future feels so vulnerable? Still, there's a way to at least get a sense for what the experts are thinking. For the past 5 weeks, infectious disease researchers from institutions around the United States have been taking a survey that gathers their thoughts on the trajectory of the virus. The research comes from academia, government, and industry, and are experts in modeling and so forth and so on. The top-line numbers are sobering. Most recent survey taken on March 16 and 17 found that as a group, the experts think that as of March 15, only 12% of infections in the U.S. have been reported, and it goes on and on. So this is where the president gets his advice, gets his input, makes his statements, and draws his conclusions. And yet the media try to make him look like a fool. The media try to trip him up. First question out of the box. Why are they doing this? I have found John Roberts at Fox to be outstanding, by the way. Absolutely outstanding. And I don't know who these OAN reporters are, but they've been terrific too, obviously from a conservative perspective. But a purely journalistic perspective, John Roberts has been terrific. He asks serious questions. And then you have them quoting the president over the weekend and quoting them inaccurately. And he tells them, read the full quote. They read the full quote. It's clearly inaccurate the way it was used by the reporter, and the reporter's still attacking. We have a very immature, unprofessional, ideological media in this country today. It's the worst I've ever seen in my lifetime, maybe the worst we've ever had. Like I wrote in Unfreedom of the Press. At least in the past, of course, we've had reporters who might identify with a party or identify with a cause, and they would present themselves that way. But not today. They actually pretend to be reporters. And when they're not regurgitating communist Chinese propaganda, They're out there looking to trip up our president. What would be in the mind of a Jim Acosta to have his staff or for him to go back and look at the quotes of the President of the United States, go to the press conference, act like nothing's been said for an hour. The American people are sitting on the edges of their chairs to try and find out what the hell's going on here and to play games. And CNN's very proud of this. And Jeff Mothersucker is very proud of this. I also want you to know that the Jim Acostas of the world and the other reporters, it's very interesting. They never asked Cuomo why he didn't order ventilators. These are the frontline guys, the governors. Never asked him why they didn't have enough hospital beds. In fact, why they diverted funds to solar panels instead of ventilators. They don't ask them those questions, even though they know the governors are in charge. Under our federalist system, the governors are the first response levels. They and the localities, not the federal government. We had a reporter today that said, would the president support GPS on phones so they can monitor you? A reporter asked that question. Apparently they're into fascism. Or masks for everyone. Everyone should be required to wear a mask. Now, these fools seem to think that only they should have liberty and to be fools with their liberty. I guess the rest of us are what? We're just to be controlled and dictated to. And I've about had it with these damn governors, too. I've about had it with these GD governors. And I'm going to explain exactly what I mean. There are things they can do. There's things they should do. But boy, oh boy. Thank God they're not generals or we'd be looking at martial law in these states. I'll be right back.